G'day guys, what's going on? I just saw some people asking about changing your leverage in the Discord, changing your leverage before you enter a trade, how that works with your stop loss. We're not talking about changing your leverage within a trade. I'll probably do another video on that at some point. But there's a few things that I commonly see people either not understanding or talking about that I've been meaning to bring up for a while. I've done it a few times in terms of writing posts in the Discord, but I just wanted to make a video to really try and make it clear, hopefully make it easier for you guys to understand, and also helps me because I can just link back to it if anyone else is asking similar questions. So let's get started. So the first thing I wanted to talk about was why leverage doesn't matter. People love sharing big leverage screenshots and showing off all that, and that's great. You know, it is. If you make 1,000%, unreal, you've done a fantastic job. But people get caught up on leverage and percentage gains when the thing that really matters is your risk to reward. Your risk to reward is, I would say, the number one most important stat in every trade you take. Because if you're using 1% leverage, 1% of your account, as your stop loss, so you're risking 1% of your account, the percentage gains that you make on your account will just always be whatever your risk to reward is if the trade goes right. So if you're taking a 2-to-1 trade, let's say, beautiful. You take a 2-to-1 trade, right? It does not matter what leverage you use, as long as your stop loss is 1% of your whole account, that will always return you 2% of your entire account as profit if you get the trade right, if it hits your target, right? Now, I will show this just quickly, just to make sure you guys really understand it. But so let's say the same trade, we'll make the stop loss something easy to work with. So we'll make it 5%, and we'll go for a 10% gain. I don't want to waste time trying to get that exact, so let's just call that 5%, and that'll do for 10. Beautiful. I mean, it still works out as 2-to-1, but we'll use 5 and 10 for the numbers. So let's say I take this trade on 1 times leverage, right? So we'll get a little text box up here. So the 1x leverage trade, which means that we're just using 100% of our own capital. So the stop loss is 5%. The take profit is 10%. Let's say we have a $1,000 account size, which means 1% of $1,000 is $10, right? So our stop loss is going to equal $10. So for a 5% stop loss to equal $10, how much do we have to put on? Now you can go through and do the maths. There's a calculator. I've built one. There's multiple calculators you can use for it. Easy thing here is if the stop loss is 5%, that's 5 times your 1% that you want to risk. So you can just divide your whole account by 5. If that's confusing, don't worry about it. Just use calculators. They do a perfect job. So we want to put on position size. And this is another thing. People often talk about how many contracts do I put on and this and that. I don't deal in contracts at all. I don't care about contracts. It's not a number that I bother calculating because to me, position size is key. Now, your position size and your contracts are linked, but your contracts are always just your position size times the price of the contract. So to me, the price of the contract doesn't matter. If I'm buying Bitcoin, if I'm buying ADA, if I'm buying anything, the price of it doesn't matter. I just want to know what position size I'm putting on. So I exclusively deal in position size because it saves me one step of maths. I don't have to go, oh, what's the contract price for this? And you can see on BitMEX, it shows you your cost, which is your position size. On Binance, it shows you your cost on the futures. On the spot, it's just however much, say you're trading Bitcoin against ADA, however much Bitcoin you are converting to ADA, that's your position size. So I always deal in position size. It saves me a step in maths, but more importantly, it allows me to do sanity checks, which a sanity check I'll show you in a sec. So 1% risk is $10. Our position size is therefore, what's our account size? 200, right? Because if we lose 5% of a $200, I've marked up here somewhere, I think. If we lose 5% of a $200 account, we are losing $10. No, I'm fine. Sweet. Should have backed myself, right? So hopefully that makes sense to you guys. We've got a position size of $200. Our stop loss is 5%, meaning if it goes wrong, we lose 5% of $200. 5% of 200 is 10. And so that's 1% of our entire account, which is always the goal. Every trade you take, the goal should be for your position size and your stop loss to give you a maximum loss of 1% of your account. That's what we've just done here. So position size is $200, right? Now, if we make 10% on our $200 trade, TP 10%. So if we make 10% on our $200 trade, 10% of 200 is $20, right? And 5% loss of 200 is $10. So you can see there, we've come back to a 2-to-1 risk to reward. We figured out the actual dollar amounts, but again, what we could have just done, rather than having to do all that maths, is just gone, all right, 1% of our account's $10, 2-to-1 trade, so we're looking to lose 10 or make 20. Doesn't matter what the leverage is, and that's what I'm going to show you now. So that's on a 1x trade, right? So now we'll take that same trade on 10x. So our stop loss is 5%, right? With leverage, stop loss, which we'll call, I'll type it out, with leverage is equal to 5%. I'll use this for the time symbol so I don't get confused with the X on the leverage. 5% times 10x, which is equal to a 50% stop loss, right? What do we do next? Our TP. So our take profit is 10%. I just thought I'd better make sure I was recording. I couldn't remember. We're good though. So take profit is 10%. Take profit with leverage is 10% times 10x, which is equal to 100% TP, we'll call that. Right, so same thing, our account size, it's still $1,000. Our 1% of 1,000 is $10. Nothing's changed there. So we want to have our position size so that our 50% stop loss, right, because it's 10 times leverage with a 5% stop loss, our 50% stop loss should equal $10. So 50% is easy because we can just double that to get 100%, and we know what our position size is. So our position size here should be $20. Position size is equal to $20. Whoops, $20. So now on $20, a 50% stop loss. So we'll call that, just 50% stop loss, because that's our stop loss with leverage, will cause us to lose $10 because we have $20 on. I'm gonna get all these symbols wrong. $10 because we have $20 on the trade. If you lose 50% of $20, you've lost $10. Now our take profit was 100%. So 100% take profit will give us a return of, we've got $20 on the trade, so a return of $20. Oops. Return of $20, right? And so our risk to reward was 2-to-1. So again, it always comes back to the risk to reward number. Your leverage, the only thing your leverage will change is how much of your account you put on the trade. So leverage is really important if your stop loss is less than 1%, like this stop loss, the 5% before you put your leverage on, right? Because if your stop loss was 0.5%, let's say, you would have to put on 200% of your account to have 1% account risk, and you can't really do that. So you use 10x leverage, and then you can put on less of your account. So leverage is really good for letting you use less of your money on the same trade to make the same amount of money as you would have without leverage, right? That's what it's really good for. So say I have a $1,000 account. If I want to take a trade with a 1% stop loss, I can only take that trade because I tie up my $1,000 in that one position. And if I see another thing that I like, well, all my money's in that trade. I can't do anything about it. With leverage, I could use 10x leverage, that $1,000 account. Now I can take a $100 trade on 10x leverage with that 1% stop loss. So that 1% stop loss with 10x leverage becomes a 10% stop loss. 10% of $100 is $10. So I'm risking my 1%, but I've still got $900 over here. So I can see another 9 trades that I like, and I can take them and I can risk 1% on each one of them. That's what leverage is really important for. It doesn't make you more money necessarily. If you're scalping and you're using less than a 1% stop loss, it can make you more money. But your risk to reward is the key number, right? You can use any leverage you want with the same risk to reward, and you will always make the same amount on your account, assuming you're risking 1%, which you should always be doing. So that's something that I see people get confused with a lot. It's something that I think it can help you save you a lot of headaches, a lot of mistakes. I've seen people adding leverages in their spreadsheets not adding leverages, sorry, adding their percentage gains on trades in their spreadsheets, but that doesn't give you a meaningful figure. Because if I took a $100 trade and I made 50%, and I took a $20 trade and I made 100%, and I took a $30 trade and I made 10%, you can't add those percentages up to get a meaningful number. You add them up and you'll get 160. I can't remember exactly what percentages I said, but you get 160. But 160% on what? Because if you add up the capital you used on each of those trades, the actual profit you've made won't be 160% of that capital. You can't add percentages like that. Risk to reward, you can add. You can just say, well, I won this 2-1, I lost this one, so I'm -1. That's ignoring compounding. It does get a little bit more complicated when you're adding compounding, but I really like this. It's the same reason that I use cost not contracts, is because it allows me to do sanity checks. Sanity checks are a concept. I did a lot of maths and physics at uni. Sanity checks are a concept where you might be working with numbers that are hard to understand. Like that's why I made it 5 and 10% on the percentages. It won't always be that clean. But what you can do is you can round things up, and you can, in your head, just use a ballpark estimate to make sure that you're in the right realm. So say I wanted my $10 stop loss. If I was calculating if I was looking for my number of contracts, if that's how I manage my trade. If I was looking for my number of contracts to stick in the BitMEX, I can't go, oh well, a 20% stop loss on 1,000 contracts is this many dollars. I can go, 20% stop loss on 1,000 contracts is going to be 200 contracts that I'll lose, but that doesn't tell me anything meaningful. Whereas if I'm using cost, and I know, a 20% stop loss on 0.1 BTC, that means that I'm losing 0.02 BTC and my whole account's 2 BTC, then I know I'm at 1% stop loss, right? And so I can do that mental check to make sure I haven't, it'll sort of show you if you've entered something wrong in the calculator or you've got the wrong idea somewhere, you can do these quick mental checks to realize something's off here, or no, that's pretty right. That's why I like working in risk to reward, is why I like working in cost, not contracts. So I hope that helps you guys. The other thing that I wanted to talk about was maximum leverage. What's the maximum leverage that you should use on a trade? As always, this depends on your stop loss. Because it is good to use higher leverage because it frees up your money for other trades. It doesn't make you any more money, as I've just shown, but it does free up your capital so you can potentially take more trades. So let's say that we go on long here. Got a, bull hammer, come back, bull hammer, bullish engulfing on a level of support. Let's say that we went long from there. Our stop losses here, it has to be, for this example, it has to be below previous structure. That's the rules of our trade plan, right? So you can't change that now. It has to be at 13,109. What I do to figure out what leverage to use, is I bring my stop loss up to, I'm probably going to explain this badly. I bring my stop loss times my leverage up to around 40%. So, and I round it off. So in this case, we've got a 3.22% stop loss. I would just use 10x leverage. That gets me to 32%. It doesn't have to be 40 exactly. All right. Now, why do I keep it below 40? Because it gives, so why do I use leverage at all? So I can free up my capital to put on more trades. Why do I keep my leverage, my stop loss below 40% rather than maximizing how much I can, or how little of my capital I can use per trade, so I can enter 20 trades instead of 10. Personally, I wouldn't recommend being in more than 5. I think 5 trades is about my limit. 2 when you're beginning. 1 is definitely adequate. You don't have to be in multiple trades, but for the sake of this argument, I try and keep it below 40%, right? Because it's a good balance of it maximizes how many different trades I can take, right? But also it keeps me safe from liquidation. So liquidation will occur at different points based on your leverage. I like to think of liquidation as where the bank makes money, because in a perfect world, in a mathematically perfect world, you'd get liquidated at a 100% loss. So if you're on a 10x trade with a 10% stop loss, you'd get liquidated when that went 10% against you, because that way the bank can just take 100% of your money and they can pay that to whoever's like 9. We're on 10x. So whoever's 90% you've borrowed to make up your whole trade, and no one loses. I mean, you lose obviously, but the bank doesn't lose. That's how it should be. That's one of the things with taking leverage. But how the bank makes money is they don't liquidate you at 100%. They might liquidate you at 80 or 70, or the lowest I've ever heard of was I think about 55% on BitMEX for a while when you were trading on 100x leverage. So that meant that if your trade moved, let's say you're on 100x, your trade moved 0.55% against you, you got liquidated. And you didn't get that 0.45% of capital that you hadn't lost. You didn't get that back. That was what they kept as profit. And that's why exchanges will offer leverage trading. That's how they make their money, is on liquidation, on fees a little bit too. So I keep it below 40%. It's what I call an effective stop loss, or a leverage stop loss, when it's a percentage of your stop loss, so 3.22 times the 10 of my leverage. I always keep that below 40%, because then I always know I should be well clear of liquidation. I should never have to worry about it. So I hope that helps you guys. I probably have rambled a bit. I hope I've been clearing the concept I'm trying to explain. Let me know if you didn't understand anything. I probably will at some point do the same sort of video, but I'll break it down into smaller segments, because there's a sort of a combination of a few things that they do all tie together. But I could do, a couple of small videos, a couple of 3-5 minute videos instead of one, however long this one is. So let me know if that's helped. I really hope it has. If you got any questions, comment on the YouTube, message me in Discord, whatever it is. And I'll try and make things as clear as I can for you. So good luck. Hope to see you guys winning.